Morning, everyone. Here's an extract from The Iron Man by Ted Hughes. If you haven't read it, it's a brilliant book. The Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. How far had he walked? Nobody knows. Where had he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff, on the very brink in the darkness. The wind sang through his iron fingers. His great iron head, shaped like a dustbin but as big as a bedroom, slowly turned to the right, slowly turned to the left. His iron ears turned this way, that way. He was hearing the sea. His eyes, like headlamps, glowed white, then red, then infrared, searching the sea. Never before had the Iron Man seen the sea. He swayed in the strong wind that pressed against his back. He swayed forwards on the brink of the high cliff, and his right foot, his enormous iron right foot, lifted up, out into space, and the Iron Man stepped forward off the cliff into nothingness. Crash! Down the cliff the Iron Man came toppling, head over heels. Crash, crash, crash. From rock to rock, snag to snag, tumbling slowly. And as he crashed and crashed and crashed, his iron legs fell off, his iron arms broke off, and the hands broke off the arms. His great iron ears fell off, and his eyes fell out. His great iron head fell off. All the separate pieces tumbled, scattered, crashing, bumping, clanging, down onto the rocky beach far below. A few rocks tumbled with him, then silence. Only the sound of the sea, chewing away at the edge of the rocky beach, where the bits and pieces of the Iron Man lay scattered far and wide, silent and unmoving. Only one of the iron hands, lying beside an old sand-logged, washed-up seaman's boot, waved its fingers for a minute, like a crab on its back. Then it lay still. While the stars went on wheeling through the sky, and the wind went on tugging at the grass on the cliff top, and the sea went on boiling and booming, nobody knew the Iron Man had fallen. Night passed. Just before dawn, as the darkness grew blue and the shapes of the rocks separated from each other, two seagulls flew crying over the rocks. They landed on a patch of sand. They had two chicks in a nest on the cliff. Now they were searching for food. One of the seagulls flew up. He'd seen something. He glided low over the sharp rocks. He landed and picked something up, something shiny, round, and hard. It was one of the Iron Man's eyes. He brought it back to his mate. They both looked at this strange thing, and the eye looked at them. It rolled from side to side, looking first at one gull, then at the other. The gulls, peering at it, thought it was a strange kind of clam peeping at them from its shell. Then the other gull flew up, wheeled around and landed and picked something else up. Some awkward heavy thing. The gull flew low and slowly dragging the heavy thing. Finally, the gull dropped it beside the eye. This new thing had 5 legs. It moved. The gulls thought it was a strange kind of crab. They thought they'd found a strange crab and a strange clam. They didn't know they'd found the Iron Man's eye in the Iron Man's right hand. But as soon as the eye and the hand got together, the eye looked at the hand. Its light glowed blue. The hand stood up on 3 fingers and its thumb, and craned its forefinger like a long nose. It felt around. It touched the eye. Gleefully, it picked up the eye and tucked it under its middle finger. The eye peered out between the forefinger and the thumb. Now the hand could see. It looked around. Then it darted and jabbed one of the gulls with its stiffly held finger, darted at the other and jabbed him. The 2 gulls flew up into the wind with a frightened cry. Slowly then the hand crept over the stones, searching. It ran forward suddenly, grabbed something and tugged. But the thing was stuck between 2 rocks. The thing was one of the Iron Man's arms. At last the hand left the arm and went scuttling hither and thither among the rocks till it stopped and touched something gently. This thing was the other hand. This new hand stood up and hooked its finger round the little finger of the hand with the eye and let itself be led. Now the 2 hands, the seeing one leading the blind one, walking on their fingertips, went back together to the arm, and together they tugged it free. I'm going to leave it there because I think you can possibly guess what happens next. What happens with the two hands? Where do they go next? What do they find? Do they put the Iron Man back together? And what happens when they do? It's a brilliant story. So if you haven't read it, especially for year 3, 4, I would think, and if you're a good reader, year 2 as well, have a read of it. Okay, bye.